everyone able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tanya, you can hear me? Tanya,
No
are you
response
there?
from our side.
Just let her join in. Till then, that point, we can discuss on anything any questions we had so far. So Rakesh or Sandeep, you can start up with your questions, and in case you have any problems, we can just discuss those problems in the meanwhile.
Yes, actually, I have to ask one question. In constructor, so Mayank, so will you please help me to understand constructor? I mean, what is constructor and so I saw in React there we have to define we have to assign our method by this function. I mean within constructor. So why we need this, and will you please a bit?
You're talking about constructor in classes.
Yes. Constructor in that I read something about I read something in about constructor, but I'm not exactly 100% sure to understand what is it.
Okay. So I think you started studying React, and there you might have encountered a constructor.
You can explain just in JavaScript constructor.
Okay. So if you talk about constructor in JavaScript, so we will be we'll be just having an elaborate session on these constructors and everything. But for a while, so let's say you create a function employee. Okay, you're taking in a name, age, and a designation. I'll just put bracket over here, function closes, and you write. So you remember this prototype pattern, this dot name equal to name, this dot age equal to age, and this dot designation equal to designation. So you remember the syntax?
Yeah.
So what do you think when you are passing some parameter? So can you just figure out what is a constructor in this? Tanya, are we audible now?
Yeah. Employee is the constructor.
So Sandeep. These three parameters which we have over here helps us to create a new object of same type, where my emp equal to new, it is called constructor function. Okay, so you're passing Mayank, you're passing some age, let's say 1, and you're passing some designation, let's say X, Y, Z. So what you would say is this is a constructor function which helps you to construct an employee object. So you put new employee and you're just passing a set of parameters which will let you create a new object of type employee. So this is constructor.
Okay.
So going forward, we'll be talking about what are classes. So you have some syntax like class employee. So we'll be changing our syntax to this particular class employee, and then we'll be having a keyword which says constructor. Okay. And we'll talk about those constructor what we have over here. So I'll just check it's syntactically incorrect. Yep. So whatever we used to create, let's say you used to pass name, age, and designation in the upper function. So in the same way, you'll be saying there's dot name equal to name. So constructor is something which helps you to create an object. So in prototype pattern, constructor is like any function that you create using prototype pattern is a constructor function. So this is a constructor function by itself. And then there is something called classes, and in classes we'll be talking about constructor function in this particular manner.
Okay.
So this is a constructor in classes. So once we switch on, once we start studying React, and once we have a requirement to understand what are classes, we'll move to what are ES6 classes, what are constructors, what are super keyword, and having all those overriding, overloading, all that functionality. So for now, you can just imagine this prototype function, and over here in this prototype function, these three parameters, if you pass, you are able to create a new object. So this employee, this function employee is a constructor function.
Okay.
So just going by English literal, this is a constructor function which is used to construct a new an object of a specific type, you can say. So this constructor function helps you to create an object of type employee.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you derive some similarity? Like this is what you read, or you had some other reference?
Yes, sir. I just install the Node.js and create React app single.
Okay, so I just wanted you to just go through these two steps, and further we can elaborate or on how these steps work. So I just wanted you to install Node, and I just wanted you to run this particular npm install -g React create React app. So have everyone done this?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so even if before this, still we have I'll just recap quickly. So the course highlight so far is like we have done working with JavaScript objects. We created object literal. We created new object using new object keyword. We talked about module pattern, a prototype pattern. Then ifs that we talked about. Okay. Then we talked about how to create singletons. And ES6 classes are the one which we'll be talking in a while once we start React. So yep, this is the object literal that we created, and then we can have dynamic keys inside object literal. You can use an object using new object, which can help you to create replica of some other object. Okay.
Yes.
And then what we have was a IFI pattern. We talked about closures, how closure help you achieve the functionality like data hiding. We worked with the module pattern. So here we saw that we created a function, created few variables, and then exposed few variables out of it. And then few variables were not exposed, but they can still be accessed inside the inner functions like increment salary. Okay. We talked about the module pattern and the IFI. We worked out with the prototype pattern. We discussed about what is this keyword. We also talked about what is the prototype keyword that we have. What is prototype?
Yeah.
Then we also talked. So prototype is what the thing that we need to discuss further. Once we go with the course, so we'll spare some time to understand what is prototype keyword. We learned about the execution context. Context is like what is the value of this at any moment of time, or we can say who's the function which executes the function. So the function executor is a sort of context for that particular function that we saw. Okay, any questions?
No.
Then we talked about how can we change the context, how can we change the calling function. So we use few keywords like call, bind, and apply. I told you to go through apply by yourself. So any questions that you have in call, bind, and apply?
No, sir. Right now, no.
Okay. We talked about how JavaScript is single-threaded, and being single-threaded, how does it cater to our requirement? How we are able to use that prototype keyword. Since it is a single-threaded, we just want one function to be shared across all the objects. So we had some thoughts about the same, and then we saw a video about Loud, which says how the single-threaded application works. We started up with ES6, and we covered few of the functionalities like template literals. Template literals is basically used in case when you have to create multi-line strings. Okay, or you have to substitute some value inside a string. It helps you to create some, to save some memory of your system. We talked about the function scope variable and the block scope variable, wherein we talked about var, let, and constant. We talked about REST